Hi guys, and welcome back here to the Dev Realm, and today we're going to be carrying on our series. And if you guys remember, what we did in the last episode is that we have created the drop function. What we're going to be doing today is that we're going to be doing the use function, which we're going to be equipping a sword. So we're going to equip a sword today. So without wasting too much time, let's go back. And what we're going to do is that we're going to add a new thing called item type. So we're going to go back here. We are going to go to the enum. And we're going to go call this e-item type. And now I'm going to open up. And here I am going to add a couple of things. So for example, in this case, it's going to be a one-hand sword. And then I could have a one-hand axe or a two-hand, like so on and so forth. And also this can be, I'm going to add another type called food because I have the apple. Now, we're going to open up the st item. We're going to add a new variable called the item type. So item type. And here we are going to search for the e item type. We add it right there. And everything's fine. Now, for a thing I'd like to do usually is just to close everything without saving. And then what happens is that once Unreal is boot up again, we load this one here. Right, so now what you're going to do is that you're going to go back to that folder that I give you guys the access to, which is the tutorial. And here you're probably going to notice that we have assets. At this point of the video, I want to have sword. I may have more things here. And what we're going to be doing is that we're going to be importing this sword item, right? So what we are going to do here, before we do that, you're going to go back to data tables. You're going to open up the item. And you can select the apple to food and the sword to one-hand sword. And that's it. Now, the next thing you need to do here is that we need to actually start to prepare the item that we want to import. So I am going to import the item inside the master RPG character. I'm going to open up here. And then within this, here, I'm going to create a new folder. And I'm going to call this, let's say, items. And I already have one called items, which is good. And inside here, I'm going to create a new folder called sword. And then inside the sword, I am just going to create here, let's say, sword 01 for now. Because I do pretend to have multiple items. So I'm just going to make the organization a little bit better. I'm going to drag and drop here, guys, the FBX. I'm going to close that. Now, make sure you go to material. Make sure you untick this option. Oh, no, that's right. You go to materials, make sure this is untick. And that's pretty much everything we need. Now we are going to export. I'm going to delete all those materials because I don't need this stuff. I'm not sure why the engine always add this stuff. Now I'm going to open up here the object, and on the material I'm going to search for the RPG. Now here we should have something called m-master RPG color, which is basically the asset framework that we're using. And if I press play, you should be able to see that this sword has a color with what is it, the little, like the handle there, which is also has like a different color. Anyway, so now that we have the sword successfully imported, which looks quite cool, what we are going to be doing right now is that we're going to create here the rules to actually import this item. So the first thing that I normally like to do here is that we need to think that this needs to be handled on the player side, because we want to keep our inventory system agnostic to the character that's using. Because imagine that you want to transport this to a MMO, or you want to transport this to a first-person game. So we need to make sure that the inventory system is agnostic to everything else. So what I'm going to do here is that on the master RPG, there's one more thing that we have to change. So if I go back here to the master inventory, we are going to go back here to the variables. We're going to open up here the st item. And what we want to do here is that we're going to add a new variable. And this is going to be called the equip object. And this is going to be the object we are going to equip when we equip the object, or equip the item. And this is going to be an actor. And this, it's going to be, let me think about it. It's going to be a class reference, right? Because we want to equip any class. Now, what I'm going to do Same thing, close the engine, open up, and here we go again. So once now it starts back, I'll resume the video. Alright guys, so I have the engine up and running, which is great. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open up here our data table. Just keep this one open. I'm gonna put this on the side, but also you're gonna notice that we can attach an object, right? So I am thinking that for the player, I'm trying to think here to make this more dynamic or in a nicer way. I think that for now, equip object, it will be fine, because what we would like to do is that imagine that you are equipping, let's say, a modular character that has hands, and you want to have a different glove for each hand. So you could actually create here a list of objects to equip. To be honest, you know what, that will be actually a little bit better. So what we're going to do here, let me just do a quick thing here on my GitHub. I'm just going to push changes. I'm just going to push this to GitHub. And also I'm going to have a full tutorial explaining how this works. And basically every time I push something, I can send to Git so I can track my project in case I do any mistakes. But anyway, on the structure here for the item, we are going to go back and we are going to select here array. The reason why I'm selecting here as an array is because I may be able to equip not only one object, but sometimes I want to equip multiple objects and things like this. And the next thing that I also would like to add here, guys, is just a new variable, and I'm gonna call this mesh to equip, right? And then here on the mesh, I am gonna search here for skeleton mesh, skeleton modifier or mesh. Let me just search here for mesh. Well, basically what I'm looking for is just that on the character itself here. Well, you know what? Is that I'm looking for this item here called how's it called, this skeleton mesh component. So we can search here for skeleton mesh component. I think that's the one that we're looking for, because what I can do here is that I can add an element, and then I can, no, that's not the one I'm looking for. Then let me just go back here, skeletal mesh, maybe object reference. And now here, if I edit, yes, that's exactly the one I'm looking for. So you're gonna add here a mesh to equip, and that's gonna be skeletal mesh, because sometimes you want to change the player hair, and that's how you would do it. And another thing here, we need to close the engine, because we did that thing again where we change our data object. And as you can see here, I'm not following a plan. I'm just like trying to get, okay, this is what I need to add object, this is what I need to equip the sword, and that's what I need. And I'm just thinking here in the future, really, because at this point I don't need this, but I'm just like to future proof myself, because we would have to do this anyway at some point. But anyway, so everything should still look and work as the way it is. Now let's actually do the equip logic. So we are going to go back here to the master inventory, master RPG character. We're going to go back to items, and here I'm going to create a blueprint class, and this is going to be an actor, and this is going to be a BP base weapon, right? And then I am going to basically create a child of this, and this is going to be a sword BP sword 01. And I'm just gonna make sure everything has like their own names and everything is properly set up. I'm gonna move that, and then on the base sword, what I'm gonna do here is that I am just gonna add a mesh, and static mesh. I'm gonna make sure this mesh here is the center of everything. And now I don't need this, which is fine. Now I'm gonna go to my sword, open up here, and I'm gonna open up here my sword 1. And now on the static mesh, I'm just gonna add this sword here, and that's it. So we're gonna compile and save. That's fine. Now we have here the sword, and now if I drag and drop here, you see I have the sword right there. I'm not sure if it has a collision. I think it does, but that's fine. We can remove it. So make sure that on the static mesh on the sword 01, you search for collision. Make sure you do, I'm just gonna do no collision because I don't want that to collide with anything once it's equipped on my player hand. Now, what I would like to do here, guys, is that I want to go on the character creator, what is it, character types. I want to open up here this modular one. And what you're going to do is that we need to set up where do we want to equip. So I'm going to open up this skeleton, the character skeleton here. And as you can see here, it's using the ASCII mannequin, which is fine. And the cool thing about this skeleton is that it has something on the hand. So if you search here for, we have here a little, how's it called here? It's is this a slot? What's that? Select, no, this is just a bone. So we have the hand R, and then within the hand R, we already have a slot, but it looks like it's a bone, which is not something that we can really use at the moment. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to right click, and I am going to add a socket, and this, it's going to be called weapon -R, and that's it. And that must be the same name as we always have. Now, one thing, I'm going to add a preview asset, which is going to be the sword that we just added. I just want to make sure that everything is aligned properly. So in this case, the sword's a little bit big, but that's okay, I guess. So we're going to add something like that. And we're going to add like here on the player's sword hand. Yeah, this sword is not necessarily small, but that's fine. That looks good. Looks quite good. Now, we can actually remove the pre-attached asset. And what I'm going to do here, that's all you have to do. We are going to go now to our modular character here, which is great. And now we need to do the logic to add, right? So before that, we need to go to the character, and we need to open up, what is it, the RPG, the inventory, data tables, and on the items, you will need to assign the sword that we just created right here. So we're going to add one object, and we're going to search here for the sword, because we should only have one, all right? And that's it. That's all we got to do here. That's everything done. Now, we need to go back to the master inventory. We're going to go to the widgets, and we're going to go back to the context menu. We're going to open up here the context menu, and here we go to the graph, and here's where we use. Remember, here is when the player drop the item. And I'm just gonna rename this. You don't have to do this, but the item. Here's gonna be when the player remove the item. So he has the option to destroy, let's say. Now we need another one, which is gonna be the logic to equip. And I think what I'm going to do here is, because the next one's going to be quite a little intense, so I'm just going to pause it, and then I'll resume the next video.